Okay, just like most of the television series, before they start an episode, they do a quick recap. So we're going to do a quick recap on the lessons. Okay, so we started off with having the Eightfold Path, right? Intention, very important. The whole idea of meditation is not just in sitting meditation. It's your whole holistic, every thought, every moment. Yeah, every thought, you need to have right thoughts all the time, thoughts of non-greed, non-hatred. In whatever you do, you speak, you act, in your livelihood, whatever you do. So that's the whole idea of application. So this formal class, formal sitting, the program will be probably like maybe half an hour of sharing, theoretical sharing, and the rest of the session would be like practical guided session. So the guided session, you need to be seated so that you can listen to the Zoom. But of course, in daily life, you can walk around, you can maybe sweep your floor, do your chores, and practice right thought. Okay, so that is the whole idea. Okay, and these are some of the basic things we'll go through. I didn't mention this last week. There's a story behind this. I used to run this meditation course. This monk called Meghiya, you can see the name here, Meghiya Sutta. So this is a new monk in the Buddha's time. He's attending to the Buddha. He's walking with the Buddha through this grove. He passed by this mango forest. And normally beginners, they have this, sometimes people have this misconception or this stereotype. Or to be a good practitioner, you need to go to a forest alone. You need to go to a cave alone. Then you practice meditation. Then this is serious practice. And you are really meditating. Then what happened is he asked the Buddha's permission. Oh, Buddha, can you let me go to this forest alone to practice? And surprisingly, the Buddha said no. Not that the Buddha want him to take care of him, but then the Buddha said no. So the second time, this Meghiya asked the Buddha again. The Buddha said no. The third time, Buddha also said no. So the Buddha don't allow him to go to the forest alone. So normally after the third time, if you request, then the Buddha will forget about answering you. So after he asked the third time, then the Buddha said, okay, do as you wish, do as you wish. So this monk left and went to this forest. He went to this forest alone, he's meditating, and then he found out that, he cannot meditate. You know, every time, the more he meditates, the more greedy he gets, the more angry he gets. Yeah? Every time, if you go to a forest and meditate, it doesn't mean it's peaceful. You know, you have mosquitoes, you have hot weather, cold weather, lack of shelter, rain, hot sun, whatever it is. So you have all these things disturbing you. So he came back eventually to the Buddha and reported to the Buddha what happened. Or lots of these issues happening, the mind cannot settle down. And the Buddha said, you see, I told you. I told you so. So beginner, you need to have certain, we call this preconditions. Preconditions. You need to have like a group of company. We call spiritual companions, or we call this positive peer pressure. You need to, amongst these peers, discuss about spirituality, about right conduct, precepts, about Buddhism, about the teachings. And once the mind is sort of lightened up, that means more positive, then you can start to meditate. And then you can, the Buddha advised these few meditations in this Meghiya Sutta, do loving kindness to reduce anger. So this is what we are doing, part of right thought, to reduce craving, which is the cause of suffering, reduce anger, and impurities of the body meditation to reduce greed or lust. So this is impurities of the body. And breath meditation is to unify the mind. The mind running all over the place, then use breath to unify the mind. And all of these meditations, right, all these three have both concentration and insight. They have both samatha and vipassana aspects. So we covered this last week. We are not going to do any of this. We're not going to do all this stuff. No aura reading, no healing, no iron jacket. So after the session, don't try this upon yourself. No special abilities, please. Yeah? Okay, so we talk about samatha, which is strengthening the mind, to still the mind, and vipassana. That means open awareness, not fixing the mind, letting the mind free to roam around, and from there you can investigate the nature of this, your attention. So one good example, you can do a short experiment. You can raise your finger. Yeah, this is the finger experiment. Everyone can raise your finger. And then you can point, where is your attention now? Every moment. Is it up all the time? Your attention up all the time. Yeah, you need to point, where's your attention now? Yeah, here, there, everywhere. Huh? So that doesn't mean you have attention deficit disorder. And this is part of the mind, part of the Dharma. We call this mental formations. Old formations keep forming all the time, forming and forming. And you need to observe the reality, how it arises, how it passes away, right? Then you can let go of this possessiveness, control freak. We think everything is ours, want to control. Huh? Some people want to focus and force on the breath. I want the mind to be still forever. You can't. The mind always runs here and there. So there are these different contemplations to think about. So I talk about the different strategies, using tranquility first, samatha, concentration followed by insight, then they reach enlightenment, or insight first, then tranquility, enlightenment, or both together, tranquility and insight. Or the last one, the unique case, is a query, a doubt. Yeah, you keep asking and asking a certain doubt in the Dhamma, and eventually they got enlightened. So these are like the strategies used by the enlightened monks in the Buddha's time. We talk about a variety of meditation objects. So this is the modern Theravada edition. Yeah, of course, down the line, different traditions may have a different mix. For example, like on the left is mostly visualization, not like fire means like staring at the candle, staring at the flame, water, staring at the water, something like that. So you have like an image, you create an image in the mind. So like, let's say in the Mahayana traditions or the Tibetan tradition, they visualize the Buddha. Yes, there are certain visualizations of the Bodhisattvas and so on. So that sometimes there's a mixture. You can combine certain meditations. Like in our meditation routine last week, we did impurities of the body, 32 parts of the body, and we combine loving kindness. And we combine, wish the body well and happy. So we did a bit here and there. So there is a combination. Okay, so this is a new slide for today. The different traditions, since we're talking about different traditions. So I'm going to introduce, we have they call it as MTV chart, not the music, television, MTV, but the three schools of Buddhism, Mahayana, Theravada, and Vajrayana. Yeah? So I belong to this Theravada school. So earlier on, Hui even introduced me. I ordained in this Thai tradition, Dhammayut sect, Dhammayut Nikaya. Happened to be the Thai forest tradition, even though I'm not staying in the forest now, but that's where I ordained. But the meditation we are using is mainly based on this one, under this Sri Lanka. I learned from this late Venerable Amata Gavesi, the system, for about like 7 years or so. So I'm basically using this style, and he ordained under this Siam Nikaya, which is Thai tradition. Sri Lanka, at one point of time in history, the monks almost went extinct because lack of monks. So they need to import foreign talent, import these Thai monks over to reordain and start this new order, Siam Nikaya. And the other three, Amrapara, Ramanya, these are the other two. These are the Burmese tradition imported from Myanmar. So in Theravada is segregated mainly based on legality. It's based on political, geopolitical segregation. Some Burmese have the Burmese tradition, but Sri Lankan have the Sri Lankan tradition, Thailand have the Thai tradition. So it's segregated based on this legal kind of jurisdiction. So the Thailand have their own this Supreme Patriarch, we call the Sangharaja, to oversee the administration of the Thai tradition monks. So it's a bit like the Pope of the Thai tradition. So of course, Vajrayana, you have the Dalai Lama under the Gelug tradition. So different popes. Yeah? So you cannot say Dalai Lama to be in charge of all the Buddhist schools. No, they have different administration. Just like, for example, different countries have different maybe army generals. You cannot ask the Malaysian army general to give command to the Singaporean army soldiers. Yeah? So they have different jurisdiction. So these are like the external aspect, sectarian aspect. But mostly in Mahayana Buddhism, they are usually segregated based on doctrines. So like you have this Pure Land school because they have Pure Land teachings. And you cannot find this in Theravada. Theravada don't have Pure Land school. Don't have Pure Land scriptures. Yeah. So for those who attended the tour guide series, I will talk about Theravada believing in monoverse cosmology. We look at one universe at one time, whereas Mahayana look at multiverses. So they believe currently there are still Buddhas alive. So they have the Pure Land, different Pure Lands. Amitabha in the Western Pure Land, East Pure Land as Medicine Buddha. So they are still alive. So this is according to the Mahayana teachings. So they chant the Buddha's name in order to be reborn there. So there's a Zen and all these different schools. So this is just a very general chart. It's not like 100% accurate. The Chinese Mahayana have like 10 schools, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, they have 10 schools. And so like the Burmese tradition, we have different schools. So one example, because you are having these sessions like every Thursday. So after my session, you may be inviting other speakers from, let's say, other traditions or other schools to talk. So maybe I'm going to talk a bit on the nuances of the different traditions. So you cannot impose like a certain belief system or doctrine from one school to another school. Okay, for example, most schools would, in meditation, would have this thing called interview. That means the practitioners will come up to the teacher and ask for advice, or sometimes the teacher will ask the students, how is your practice? Right, so I'm going to give an example of the first Zen scenario. I'm sure you heard of the Bodhidharma, the first Chinese Zen patriarch. That means he's the first Indian to go to China to start off this lineage. So Bodhidharma, Chinese called Dhammo. So this master, Zen master, Bodhidharma, has 4 main disciples. So he's deciding to choose who is the next patriarch, who is the next successor, who's the next in line to take over him to lead this community. So he decided to hold an interview session with all 4 of them, one by one. So the first disciple interviewed, then he asked him, what did you learn so far? And the student answered, oh yeah, this body is impure, the 32 parts of the body, the hair, the blood, and everything. The body is disgusting. So that's the nature of the body. So the Bodhidharma, he laughed. Okay, you only got my hair, external part of my body. So he asked him to return, asked the next contender to come in. So the second disciple came in for interview, and Bodhidharma asked the same question, what do you learn so far? And the second student said, oh, the whole universe is made of the 4 elements, earth, fire, wind, water, 4 elements. Then Bodhidharma, he laughed and said, okay, you got my skin, something deeper. And he asked this second contender to leave, asked the third contender to come in. And the third contender answered, okay, all the phenomenon, and maybe he answered, I forgot what he answered, but he talked about deeper philosophy, everything is impermanent, maybe non-self, empty, whatever it is. So he tried to explain as much as possible. And Bodhidharma laughing, haha, okay, you got my flesh. And he asked him to leave and asked the fourth contender to come in and asked the same question, what have you learned so far? And the fourth contender didn't say a word. He just remained quiet and he just bowed down and he left. And Bodhidharma, he laughed with great joy, saying, okay, you got my bones. So he chose the fourth person to be the successor. He chose the fourth person to be a successor. That means he's able to see that the fourth disciple, the one that didn't answer anything, that he achieved enlightenment. Right? Then he passed down the patriarchy to this monk. And you cannot follow this step to, let's say, maybe the Burmese tradition. So maybe the Burmese tradition have an interview, and the interview is based on a certain syllabus. And let's say enlightened Zen practitioner go to this Zen format, the Zen instructor for interview. And the Zen instructor is going to ask the student, what are you practicing so far? What have you learned so far? And if that student just keep quiet and just bow down, the instructor is going to take that, okay, you never learned anything. You're still at beginner's level. So these are the differences in the different traditions. Yeah? So make sure you're aware. I won't go into technicalities, maybe later on in the lesson. Right? So there are many of these different traditions, different interpretation of the teachings, the doctrines, different kinds of meditation, and also different interpretations of the precepts. Okay, so again, this is like a rough guideline on how they spread geographically. And the Theravada schools, the ones in dark orange or red, and the northern schools in yellow and orange. Yeah. Okay, so today we're going to talk a bit technical on this samadhi, stillness. So this is eventually what most people want to achieve. Or in fact, the eventual goal of Buddhism is to reach this peace or stillness, as mentioned in the Third Noble Truth, to relinquish this craving, abandon craving, and this formations, yeah, to overcome these formations. Okay, and this particular scripture mentioned there are 4 kinds of concentrations, 4 different types of practices in general. Okay, so the first kind of samadhi, first kind of concentrative practice is to achieve this peace, pleasant abiding here and now. So this is the first kind of samadhi. We call this the jhanas. So earlier on, we talked about the Noble Eightfold Path. So the Eightfold Path refers to this one, these jhanas. Yeah, we'll cover that in detail later. And the second kind of samadhi is to develop knowledge and vision. So this one is to develop the divine eye. So this one is normally visualization practices. Yeah, a lot of, for the Theravada, maybe visualize white light or whatever kasina object. And this one, again, we'll talk about it later in detail. And the third one is on mindfulness, yeah, observe impermanence. So this is the vipassana aspect. So vipassana can lead to samadhi as well. Vipassana can lead to peace. So the vipassana kind of samadhi is not the same as the jhana kind of samadhi. there are different kinds of concentration, different kinds of peace. And the fourth kind is basically more or less the same as the third, but with more detachment. The more you practice, and eventually if a person is quite close to enlightenment or nearing enlightenment, they will reach this fourth kind of samadhi, ending of affluence. So there's another technical term they call this objectless samadhi, and it's a commentary name. So there are 4 kinds of samadhi, and each of them are actually separate. So certain schools of Buddhism just practice maybe just vipassana, this impermanence, and they reach enlightenment, for example. And other schools, maybe they just do these jhanas first, then vipassana. Some, or rather most, I wouldn't say most, I would say some Theravada schools will believe in doing jhanas equals to developing abilities to see past life. Some will have this belief, whereas in this scripture, they will see it's separate. Yeah, some of them, they develop jhanas, they will see bright light. So they ask you to focus on the bright light. Whereas down here, they mention these different kinds of concentration. Right? So the one we are doing is actually a combination of 1 and 3. Doing loving kindness, once the mind at peace, then think of impermanence. So it's a combination of 1 and 3. And some schools, they just do visualization. They don't do number 1. Yeah? But eventually, to reach enlightenment, you need to do number 3. Yeah? So whatever practice you do, number 1, number 2, you need to do number 3 to reach number 4. So the Buddha can do all 4. Yeah? So that's why we call him the perfect one, fully enlightened, perfect one. So I'm going to move on. Okay, so this is going to be a bit dry. We are not going to spend too much time on it. Just to let you know, the jhanas have different emotions. They are, in the definition of right concentration, it is defined as the 4 jhanas. So there's the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, third column, and the fourth column, 4th jhana. So total, there are 4 jhanas in the suttas, and each jhana has different emotions. So the first level, if a person achieve it, you'll have this joy and pleasure, happiness and joy. Yeah, these 2. Depends on translation. No? Some will call this pleasure happiness. So they call sukha, and piti is joy, and you have this directed and evaluated thinking. And in the second jhana, same emotion, joy and this happiness, same emotion, but lack of background noise, lack of this initial and sustained thinking. Yeah, so the mind is more quieter. Yeah, so quieter, or basically clearer. A person will be able to feel this joy and happiness clearer. And in the third level of concentration, basically they have this happiness and no joy. So if you want to differentiate what's the difference between joy and happiness, then you must go to second and third. Transit between second and third, or third and second. Then you're able to differentiate between joy and happiness. Yeah? And you have a bit of this thing called equanimity. And again, to experience what is equanimity, you need to go to the 4th level of concentration. So the 4th level of concentration, you have a mind that's equanimous, and from there, it's defined as right concentration, and that by itself is still not enlightenment. That is just calming the mind. Okay, so total in the Buddhist scriptures, there are mentioning of 8 jhanas. Total of 8. So we only describe 4. So we give you 50% discount. We don't want to talk too much, talk until too high. So in the Buddha's time, it is believed that before he got enlightened, he learned from two ascetic teachers, this 7th and 8th level of concentration. But he didn't reach enlightenment. So he left that school of thought, which in brief, they believe in like freezing the karma, everything quiet and still, that is ultimate happiness. So that is their belief. Okay, and he went to the other school of thought because after you come out of concentration gone. You need to go to the washroom, you need to go to eat your meal. So you have movement again. You cannot have total quietness all the time. So he abandoned this belief, went to the other belief, which is torturing himself, trying to burn all the karma. So it's like paying it forward. So he tortured himself to all the fasting practices and whatever practice, torturing practices, and he's about to die. He's about to die, and he still haven't reached enlightenment, right? Over torture himself. And eventually he decided to abandon this concept of torturing and decided to practice the middle way, where he discovered as a young boy, 7 years old, is able to enter first jhana under a tree as a boy, 7-year-old boy, enter concentration. Right? How many of us have this kind of experience? So, so he's able to recall this, and he's able to work his way to be able to enter the first, second, third, fourth. So probably at that time, the ascetics before the Buddha's time weren't familiar with this 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, weren't familiar how to go to number 1, how to go to number 2, number 3. So he have to work up himself, 1, 2, 3, 4, and from 4 he's able to go to 5, 6, 7, 8. And after 8 he got liberated. He's able to go through different emotions, different moods of consciousness, and every level he went. The previous teacher, right, went there, different these 2 levels of concentration. The sense of self is still there. But the Buddha's technique, after going through 1, 2, 3, 4, the sense of ego, the sense of self, changed so much. Imagine going to consciousness, infinite consciousness, in the mind, like so big. You are one with the universe. Infinite consciousness. Then suddenly, nothing. So he's going to question the ego. Is this ego really real? So from there, then he went to this neither perception, non-perception, which he able to question also, able to detach, and eventually reach this enlightenment. So the Buddha's, I would say, discovery is the level-to-level concentration. That is able to discover 1 to 8, which is new to the yogis, meditators scene. So most of the, I would say, probably current, maybe Hindu yoga practitioners, you ask them about jhanas or dhyanas, they probably won't know all this. Yeah, these are probably probably like extinct. Even in modern Buddhism, this technique also quite endangered. Quite endangered. Not many people practice this, how to go level by level. But that is not to say that there isn't any practitioner that enter concentration. Yeah. In fact, most of the mantra kind of practice would end up with this. If a person do it correctly over a long time, they will straight away enter this. In my opinion, enter this infinite consciousness, the 6th level of concentration. So they bypass 1 to 5 and they enter number 6. So after they meditate or they chant, they come out, they tell you very peaceful. And you ask them what level of concentration you enter. I don't know. Nobody teach me. I do not know what level. So this is the problem now. Nobody know what level. But they may or may not have entered this, but without their knowing. Without them knowing this label, this term. Right? So again, for you to explore, how much time do we have? I still have a bit of time. Quickly go through. So this is the second kind of concentrative practice that's supposed to lead to knowledge and vision. So some practitioners will encourage this. One popular example would be maybe Ajahn Brahm would encourage this. He even wrote it in his book, from the breath meditation to look at white light. But his teacher, Ajahn Chah, doesn't teach this. So again, it's based on teacher to teacher. And another popular school would be this Paok Sayadaw tradition from the Burmese tradition. They also emphasize on visualizing white light. So the intention of this is to develop this divine eye. So from there on, they have these, we call these psychic abilities, certain abilities. In Buddhism, we call these higher knowledges. Total, there are 6 kinds of higher knowledges. So the first kind is recollecting past lives. That is the first kind. So second kind would be divine eye. So you're going to see heavenly beings, angels, ghosts. So this is the second kind. And the third kind, divine ear. So again, you can hear long range, listen to the heavenly beings and whatever not. And the fourth kind would be called the mind reading ability, probably something you like to see in the X-Men movies. And the fifth kind would be telekinesis, able to move objects in your mind, able to fly, walk on water, whatever, all those. Yeah, so that's the fifth kind. And the sixth kind of higher knowledge is the knowledge to gain liberation. Okay, so developing this divine eye is mainly, these psychic abilities is the first 5 kinds. And the sixth kind of higher knowledge is liberation, which would be this, the last 2 kinds of samadhi, which we talked about earlier, practicing detachment and reaching enlightenment, right? So in our practice, we don't do these visualizations, right, for many reasons. But in the Theravada tradition, normally we start off, for those who emphasize this practice, they straight away tell you, okay, visualize white light, or visualize something, ask you to visualize, and make sure you see your past life. So this is for those who encourage this practice. But if I'm not wrong, in the Tibetan tradition, before they take up certain visualization practice, they need to do certain purification practice. They need to do certain confession, maybe lots of prostrations, a lot of mantra chanting, until they can go for an initiation, right, to receive the teaching from a guru and not only follow the guru's instruction to practice certain visualization exercise. So there's a reason. You need to purify your karma first, right? Make sure your intention is pure. If not, you see past life, look in K-drama, see all the past, what you do, K-po, and what did my friend do in my past life? End up, where did I keep all my treasures in my past life? And that kind of stuff. So you won't end up having this right motivation or intention not pure. Or if, let's say, a person doesn't have enough good karma, instead of seeing heavenly beings, end up they see horror movies, and they see all the ghosts and the demons all the time. So it can be quite traumatic. So if a person is not karmically pure enough, not encouraged. So this practice, again, not suitable for everybody. And likewise, all the various combinations of the different meditation we talk about, it's a case-by-case basis. So in our routine, we sort of play safe, use very general kinds of meditation. But if you have certain inclination, you want to specialize, this by all means. But if you go cuckoo, you go haywire, you go crazy with this visualization, not my problem. Yeah? I didn't teach all this. Huh? Okay. And the next one, vipassana kind of samadhi, we talk about this, observing impermanence every thought, right? Every feeling, observe how it arises, pass away. And the fourth kind, leading to this ending of affluence, that means ending of all your defilements. So this is the same thing. Basically, you carry on observing impermanence until you practice detachment. So you need to carry on. The whole idea is, or rather, the common mistakes when a person meditates, they will find the mind very peaceful and they stop there. They want to stay in the peace. So that's wrong. So you need to carry on, always be mindful of impermanence. It is not to reject the peace. No, you can take view of the peace, like sight view of the peace, but carry on observing this impermanence arising and falling. All right, so I will stop this sharing and stop sharing. I've opened the floor for Q&A. So this concludes the second lesson's theoretical sharing. Anyone has any questions? All learn, all okay?
Anyone have question can unmute yourself.
Yes.
Just curious, right? So I think the first form of samadhi can like reach up to the 8 jhanas, right? So just curious, the 1 times 3, the tranquility with insight, right? The like what level of jhana is it possible? Just curious.
Okay, depends on the individual. Yeah? So if a person combine both samatha and vipassana. In fact, the Buddha, when he started teaching, he did the combination part. So you can reference with the jhana sutta, all levels of jhana from 1 to 8 as contemplation of impermanence.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions?
Hi, Bhante. Just a question.
Yes.
So when we actually meditate and achieve nirvana, will we still be able to, will our karma still, will it be completely eradicated, or will we still carry on with our karma? Yeah,
so the old karmas will still ripen, just an enlightened person won't be affected. The enlightened mind won't be emotionally affected by the karma. So for example, like the Buddha, after he got enlightened, he also experienced aging, sickness, and passing away. So all these are old karmas catching up.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, no problem. Any other issues?
Bhante, I would like to ask a question.
Yeah.
So, the question is with regards to the jhanas. So, it seems like, is it mandatory for the jhanas to be the prerequisite for enlightenment? And also, what exactly is it about the attainment of jhanas that actually leads to one's liberation? So how does that link towards one's liberation?
Yeah, very good question. So it is also a very popular debatable topic, but I would say jhanas is not necessary, but it's good to have. Good to have. So imagine like your person has jhana, it's like you go to a journey but with a vehicle. So the higher the jhanas is like the faster vehicle. You can reach your destination faster. But if you don't have a vehicle, you can walk, no problem, you can walk. But one day you also can reach your destination, right? So it's still possible, no problem. Yeah. So one good example, or there are many examples of monks in the Buddha's time that they didn't do jhanas and reach enlightenment. So one of the popular monks would be this Arahant Sivali. Before he got enlightened, before he ordained even, during the head shaving ceremony, hair shaving ceremony, he just contemplated on the hair falling, then he got enlightened. Don't need to sit down and do the full lotus position. Don't need to enter samadhi. Just observe the hair falling, got enlightened.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, no problem. Any other?
There's a question in the chat, actually. There's a question in the chat from Denry. Maybe
Okay.
I'll just read the question. So, hi Bhante, how does the Dhammakaya method of Samsara Arahang fit into the scheme of samadhi you shared, or does it align?
Okay, so the chant, right, Arahang, Samsara Arahang. Okay, if they have like, I'm not sure of their method, but I only know of the crystal ball visualization. So their visualization would fall under the second kind of samadhi, which is the visualization, Samarahang. Yes, but the chant by itself, like a mantra, and if done properly, may enter, right, this formless concentration, like any mantra, even outside of the Buddhist religion. So does that answer your question? So in the Thai forest tradition, also the same thing. They use the Buddha mantra. They're lazy. They just chant one Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Shortcut, the shortest cut ever. By right, originally in the suttas, you have to chant all 9 qualities of the Buddha. Very long. Iti viso bhagava arahant sammasambuddho vijayachana sampana. No, very long. Chant the whole 9 qualities of Buddha. But the Thai people shortcut, just chant one, just chant Buddha. So they just keep chanting there, chanting. But then one can enter samadhi, enter this formless concentration. Then from there, the Thai forest tradition used 32 parts of the body as their vipassana, contemplation of the body as the vipassana. So the samatha is the chanting of the Buddha, and the vipassana is the 32 parts of the body. All right, okay, no problem. Any other questions?
Bhante, can I ask a meditation question?
Yes.
I like the on-chip question because I feel like meditation is always like a struggle because I always like try too hard. Like yesterday, I was at the beach, right? Then actually when I was like listening to the waves, it was very, very peaceful. I was like, yay! But the moment I closed my eyes, I was like, yes, I'm gonna meditate. Then suddenly there was so much wanting, it's like I need to be peaceful, I need to observe my breath. Then suddenly so much fear, so much wanting. So I just wanna, this is like a persistent problem that I've always had. So I'm just wondering like any tips for people who are like have like very strong desires or like very strong habitual tendencies to like achieve something, because meditation is like opposite, I think.
Yeah, okay. So meditation routine, I always emphasize on right effort, and it means repetition. It's not about sitting there. If once you do nothing only, you let your mind autopilot, that's it, gone. So all these unwholesome states you take over, either too much anxiety, too much worry, or fantasizing, whatever it is, all these stray thoughts will come and take over. Right? So never leave the mind idle. So always apply the right thoughts. So whatever you want to practice, so in my routine will be loving kindness first, soften the mind, be diplomatic to the mind first. So you need to have loving kindness, make sure the mind is happy, is at peace. Okay, then you can do the heavy lifting, I think of impermanence or whatever it is. Then the mind can accept the truth. If you straight away want to think of the heavy stuff, or think of emptiness, think of non-self, think of all those very deep topics, sometimes the mind cannot accept. If the frame of mind is not open, you think of impermanence. Hey, one day, I will get old, If the mind is not ready, what will happen is the mind will worry. If I get old, what happened to my insurance? What happened to my financial planning? Who is going to take care of me in future? And you start to worry and worry. Nothing wrong with worrying, nothing wrong with planning, but the mind will get too attached, get too sucked in, affected by all this. So once the mind has the mentality of being at ease, being more embracing, have this loving kindness, then you think of impermanence can accept, then you can easily accept and let go. So there is a sequence. So it's good to have this non-hatred first, reduce part of the desire, and followed by other kinds of contemplation.
Loving kindness, what method? Like very briefly, like what method do you use? Like do you talk to yourself? Like the
it's sub-vocalization. You wish your hair well and happy, wish your bones, your teeth, your skin well and happy. So that is a restricted kind of process. You confine to one area. And you also can do the expanded version, wish all beings, all directions, well and happy. So that will lead to concentration. The expanded version will lead to the jhanic version.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. We'll do loving kindness.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Okay, if not, we go for a short 5-minute break to relieve yourself of your elements, and also to do stretching, to soften your earth element and whatever. Yeah? So now it's 8:23, so you're back at 8:28 for the guided meditation. Okay, so see you later. Stray to the extremes of either starting, may I be well and happy, or may my loved ones be well and happy. They may easily stray into this indirect enemy emotion of this personal affection rather than loving kindness. So it's very common, those people that go to temple and pray, take the joss sticks, and they do the same thing. Wish yourself happy, wish your family and friends happy. So that isn't loving kindness. Right? So in the original sutta, the instruction is to wish all beings well and happy. So you can do a comparison. You wish yourself well and happy versus you wish all beings well and happy. Very different.
So sorry, Bhante, you are not recommending, as in the suggestion is more towards metta towards the other sentient being rather than we ourselves to focus.
Yeah, so whatever verse you want to customize, make sure you have to compare, and investigate. Is the emotion mundane or coarse kind of emotion, or is it a sublime kind of emotion? So the ultimate aim is to have these sublime states.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course, you need to experience a sublime state first to have a comparison. If not, most people start off practicing with the post-canonical method. May I be well and happy. Imagine their social media, a few thousand friends. They start to wish all their close ones were happy and wish and wish and wish. Then by the time maybe 1 or 2 hours, they ended the session already, still practicing personal affection. Then they didn't practice any boundless loving kindness yet. Yeah, so it's good to take note. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I have another question about the focusing on the white light.
Okay.
Because once I observe that white light itself, right, then I will tend to focus it too much that I will develop headaches. So how can I overcome this?
Yeah, so again, I don't recommend in my practice to visualize white light, but if you are practicing that, it's good to look for that teacher to give you instruction. Yeah, but in general, all phenomena is impermanent. So that also, light also is impermanent. And if it causes stress or tension, then is that tension truly self? Is it you? Is it yours to control in the first place? You need to reflect that. So in Buddhism, there's this thing, the three Dharma seals, three universal characteristics: impermanent, suffering, and non-self. Yeah, why you have strain and tension? Because you want to control.
Yeah.
The nature of the mind is changing, but you want to fixate it. That's why you have this tension and this suffering. So you must reflect on this impermanent and suffering until you detach. Yeah?
Sure. Thank you, Bante.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
Bante, I think we have one question on the chat. Maybe I can read it out.
Okay.
Yeah. This is from Sister Peggy. She says, "Hi Bante, for beginner in meditation, when our minds wander off, what are the ways to minimize this? Is counting numbers the right way to help in focusing? Thank you."
Yeah, so like any meditation, we always say apply right effort. That means consistency. So the rate per minute of reflection has to be there. That means you need to increase the rate per minute of reflection, then to bring the mind back. So counting numbers is more like a new kind of invention, to count the numbers, like counting sheep before you sleep. I normally don't recommend it because numbers by itself has no positive connotation. Like when we have these meditation themes like loving kindness, because it overcomes anger, so it has some positive value. But numbers, I do not know what's the positive value, right? So unless it can inspire you in some way, then by all means. But if not, I don't generally recommend counting numbers. You come back to your meditation theme. If let's say you're chanting the Buddha's name, then you just come back to the chant. Right? You don't have to change the numbers. You don't count 1 Buddha, 2 Buddha, 3 Buddhas, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, Bante. Good evening. I'd like to ask with regards to what you have mentioned. What you have mentioned earlier as I think about like you think there's too much thoughts as in worrying, like who is going to take care of me, the insurance part, that kind of stuff. But if we were to stay put with the knowing, the awareness mind, knowing that all these are like thoughts that's coming in and out, is that the right way of practicing? Like just stay put with the knowing mind?
Yeah, that is the last resort. If you cannot observe impermanence, you cannot observe any arising or any passing, then you observe this awareness. So this is mentioned in the 4 Foundation of Mindfulness Sutta. But normally, if those who straight away give you this instruction, just stay with the awareness, chances is not so successful. So try to observe impermanence first. Then the last resort, you cannot observe any impermanence, so then you stay with that knowing.
Sorry, when you mentioned that impermanence, that means, is it the rising and the falling?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, we can start with the session. If there's no other queries, we can turn off the microphones. Make sure you're seated in a comfortable position. So it's all right to sit on a chair, no problem. Don't be shy. Sit on a chair. Don't torture yourself first. Make sure you're seated upright. If you do not have any back injuries, then it's all right not to lean on the backrest. And once you have found your comfortable sitting position, and then we start off again in the first routine, right? The imperatives of the body meditation. learning how to detach from the body. So this one is a bit of visualization only. So we're going to imagine your hair. And we start all wishing all the hairs well and happy from head to toe. And every time you conjure a new image, that means you move to a new patch of hair, then you need to regenerate the well-wishing, wish the hairs well and happy. A new patch of hair, well and happy. New patch of hair, well and happy. So this is basically a tug of war between skillful thoughts versus unskillful thoughts. Every time you intentionally generate loving kindness, you are pulling the rope in one direction, and every time you leave the mind idle, the rope is being pulled another direction. So it's a tug of war. So new image, well and happy, new hair, well and happy. So once your mind is generally more peaceful than before, it's always good to know the difference in the state of mind before and after you apply the step. So if the mind is more peaceful, then you can introduce the contemplation of impermanence. And this is to reduce greed or attachment. So all these hairs go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. You think of the hairs growing and falling, growing and falling, many, many, many cycles. No need to over dramatize. No need to think of how you shower, how you comb your hair. Just think of hairs growing and falling. The more cycle, the merrier. So if you are on the right track, that means you should be feeling a certain inner peace, or initially a certain inner joy when there's a detachment. But over time, it should be inner peace. And whatever emotion you experience, no matter how quiet, how pleasant, always mindful of impermanence. And this is a kind of peace, or if I use the Pali word, a kind of samadhi through impermanence. Yeah? Okay, and again, there are many different depths or levels, spectrums of this depth of peace. Depends on how long you want to do it. And again, we are going to reflect, are these hairs truly self? And you tell the hairs not to go through birth and death. And the next part of the body, we're going to visualize the nails. We wish all the nails well and happy. May all the fingernails be well and happy. And may all the toenails be well and happy. And all these nails go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. And keep growing and falling, growing and falling, many, many cycles. And we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? And we tell the nails not to go through birth and death. And the next part of the body, we are going to visualize the teeth. All the teeth inside the mouth, may they be well and happy. May all the upper rows of teeth be well and happy. And may all the lower rows of teeth be well and happy. And all these teeth go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So the teeth have to fall off the maximum twice. So we're just going to think of the bone cells of the teeth, wear and tear, growing and falling of the teeth cells many, many times. And then we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? And we tell the teeth not to go through birth and death. And next we can visualize the skin. We wish all the skin well and happy from head to toe. May all the skin be well and happy. So again, the skin is quite a large area. So every time you think of a new patch of skin, wish it well and happy. New patch of skin, well and happy. And all the skin go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. We think of the skin growing and falling many, many times, many, many cycles of birth and death. And then we can ask ourselves, are this skin truly self? And we tell the skin not to go through birth and death. Okay, so this is the family-friendly edition of the impurities of the body. And just going to end at the skin. And next on, we're moving to the practice of the four immeasurables. Yeah? So this time round, this routine doesn't require visualization, no imagination. So we are using real-time evidence, real-time observation. So we're just feeling the sensations. And so now we're going to wish all beings in front well and happy. Or whatever you can detect in front, whatever sensation appears, you just wish it. And come back to ourselves. And we wish may all beings behind well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And now we are wishing that all beings on the left be well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish may all beings on the right well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And now we wish all beings above well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish may all beings below well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And this time round, we are going to suffuse the entire body with loving kindness from head to toe. And this entire body, including the insides of the body, be well and happy. So we're just feeling the sensations. So these sensations can be generally classified into the 4 elements. Nothing mystical or magical about these 4 elements. Yeah, the earth, fire, wind, and water. The earth element represents any hard and soft kind of sensations. Fire represents warm and cold. Wind, fast and slow movements. And water, moist or dry. So there is no need to purposely create the sensation. Let it arise by itself. And whatever sensation arises, we should well and happy. No need to control it, no clinging, no pushing away. Treat all these sensations as passerby. So the only intentional thing is your loving kindness. So this is not just intellectual thinking. You need the solid evidence, the observation, followed by or coupled with the reflection of loving kindness. For those who are, let's say, facing drowsiness, the advice would be don't entertain the sleepy feeling. Very nice, very enticing. Once you try to observe it only, then bye-bye, gone. Go to La La Land. This is loving kindness to the elements of the body. And we also now can reflect on the impermanence of these elements, how these elements arise and how they disappear. If we observe the impermanence of the four elements, that is part of the mindfulness of body practice, one of the four foundations of mindfulness. The more you reflect on impermanence, and the calmer the mind should be. And you can see how far can the mind settle down. And you can keep note of your high score. You can always challenge yourself and the mind settle further. Okay, so for those feeling drowsy, don't grasp onto the peace, yeah? No matter how peaceful, how pleasant, don't just stay there. Keep planting the seeds, always mindful of impermanence. And treat the peace as a byproduct. Okay, so this is just a state of mind at base level. If let's say your mind settle until cannot settle any further, until the rate of settling is so negligible, then we call this the stability point, or this one-pointedness of the mind, call this ekagata. So the relationship between this observation of impermanence and settling of the mind, I give an example, analogy. It's just like person driving the car, and the impermanence is like stepping on this acceleration pedal. And the calming of the mind is like the meter you observe on the screen. So you're able to see whether the mind is settled, is it worked out, is it scattered. So you can observe in a meter by the speed of the mind. So make sure you fulfill two conditions. First is number one, you remember this state of mind or remember this emotion. So currently this is level 0, yeah? Level 0, no concentration, no jhanic concentration yet. Maybe have some vipassana kind of concentration. The emotion most probably very bland and nothing unique. Okay, but and number 2, you need to keep reflecting on impermanence. Okay, once you fulfill these 2 criteria, then you can change gear. So how to change gear is to make a wish to let go of this mind, just like letting go of a balloon. Once you release, don't have to push, don't have to do anything. You just observe any change of emotion. And if you reach the first level or the first gear, there should be some symptoms, not COVID symptoms, but first level jhana symptoms. There's certain pleasant emotions. In theory, it's called joy and happiness. But if you cannot differentiate, never mind. Just know it's a pleasant emotion. If you do it correctly, then you just take note of this pleasant emotion and continue with the acceleration pattern, which is impermanence. So you need to multitask a bit. Take note of this emotion and mindful of impermanence of the elements until the mind settles down. Keep stepping on the acceleration pedal, which is impermanence. Whatever nice emotion are just passing sceneries. Don't have to stop at every nice scenery. So if you find your mind generally very settled and the rate of settling is so negligible, that will be like equivalent to your constant speed. And the rate of acceleration like 0 already. And you just be aware of this emotion and continue, mindful of impermanence. And don't let go of the pedal. Okay, so you take note of this emotion. So the first level of this concentration has a certain intensity of this joy and happiness. And once you change gear, you make a wish to just let go of this mind. Just release, let go, like letting go of balloon. By itself, you just observe any change in emotion. And if, let's say, you've arrived at the second level, there should be again different symptoms. So the joy and happiness still there, but supposedly more intense due to lesser clouded thinking. Yeah. So again, you take note of this emotion and continue in the acceleration pedal until the mind reaches a new rate of calmness. If you find your mind has reached a constant speed of calmness, and a rate of settling is like very negligible, then you can take note of this state of mind, remember this emotion, and continue with this acceleration pedal, mindful of impermanence. So in theory, this emotion is joy and happiness, and the next level will be just happiness but no joy. So if you want to know the difference, then between the two, then you'll experience it, and you can compare once you move to the next level. Okay, so if you want to change gear, you may do so. Make a wish to let go of the mind. Once you release, just like letting go of a balloon, don't have to do anything, just observe any emotional change. And if you have reached the third level and a different pleasant emotion should manifest itself, so that again, that is the happy emotion, no joy. So you take note of this emotion of happiness and continue with the acceleration pedal until you reach a new rate of calmness and full of impermanence. And if your mind has calmed down, then you can take note of this state of mind and continue with the acceleration pedal of impermanence. Once you can change gear to a level 4. And once you release the mind, like letting go of a balloon, you can let the mind evolve by itself, and you can just take note of any change in emotion. And if you are at the 4th level and you've been doing it correctly, you should experience this emotion called equanimity. So it's rather a new kind of emotion, no happiness, no joy, neutral but refreshing kind of emotion. You take note of this emotion, equanimity, and continue the acceleration pedal of impermanence until the mind settles. If your mind is rather calm and settled, then again can familiarize yourself with this state of mind. Remember this emotion and continue the acceleration pedal. And then now you can bring your attention back to the body. And feel your fingers and toes. And once you're done with that, you can gently open your eyes. Okay, we may run a bit OT today. Yeah, any problems or questions? So this one works if you follow the steps. Yeah, must follow and step on the acceleration pedal. If you're halfway distracted, you move off. It's like letting go the acceleration pedal. Then very hard to reach the speed, correct speed or the correct calmness. Okay. Any issues? If there's no waiting, yes.
Yeah, so Bante, is it all right that when we reach, like just now you mentioned, we reach level 4, right? But there are still thoughts that, but I observe there's thoughts going out, then I pull back again. Is it normal, or I haven't reached that stage of the level 4? Yeah.
Yeah, the number 4 is got to do with the we call the jhana factor, the emotion. Yeah. So if you have the emotion, then we say continue to step on the gear. Step on the acceleration pedal. If there's like distraction, it's like releasing the pedal. Yeah, releasing the pedal. So if let's say you halfway want to change a meditation object, then it's like you're releasing and doing something else. But the car still has momentum. It's still there's certain movements and a certain momentum. If let's say you don't totally lose the momentum, let's say you're not distracted long enough, you can still come back. If let's say you're distracted, you daydream for too long, then everything gone. Back to speed 0, then you need to restart over again.
No. I think at one point of time, I totally didn't observe my body parts. So once you ask us to come back to our body parts, then I kind of feel my fingers and all. Is that normal? Or?
Yeah, that is, if you enter the concentration levels, you are sort of quite withdrawn from the senses. Yeah, quite withdrawn. So whatever elements you focus might be a more subtle form of elements. It's not the real physical element. Just like the first step we did when we visualize the hair, visualize the skin, it's not the real hair and real skin. It's imagination, hair and skin. So this is a very subtle hair, subtle form. It's not the real form.
Thank you, Bante.
Yeah, no problem. Any other?
Hi, Bante.
Yeah.
Just want to check. So how do we deal with distraction like pain as well as itchiness that will actually distract us from focusing?
Yeah, okay. So currently what we're doing now is like a fixed kind of routine. So if you want to proceed on with a fixed kind of routine, then it's sort of good to ignore the pain. If let's say you're doing this concentrative state, it's good to bring the mind back to your meditation theme, or if you have this painting of the elements that's impermanent and whatever not. But if let's say you are doing on your own freestyle, you want to customize, you can of course jump to other kinds of meditation objects. You can do a freestyle one, like the first session we did last week, open awareness. You can let your attention go to the pain, see how the attention move around, understand impermanence, or investigate the impermanence of the feelings. All right.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, but again, we are not training to be superhuman. We are not training to be robots. If the pain is unbearable, please do take care of yourself. You need to move. I know there are some meditation masters which teach you, bear the pain and don't move. Yeah, I personally know a few of these masters. They have a line of volunteer massagers waiting for them to massage them after the meditation session. Yeah, so they are very different, so they can tell us not to move. But like junior monks such as us don't have the luxury, so we need to take care of ourselves. You need to fight the battle another day. Yeah. So
I read somewhere that says that, you know, if you sit long enough, the pain will disappear, but it kind of get excruciating to the point that you cannot focus. So I think it doesn't help that way also.
Yeah, of course, everything is impermanent. Yes. So for let's say if you're starting off a small unpleasant feeling, you still can try to observe impermanence. But if it gets too excruciating, then a bit hard to think of impermanence. End up the mind become having aversion, or try to control, tolerate, or fight. So it becomes aversion. Yeah. So unless it depends on your skill level. If not that skill level might change, right? Depends on condition. Like even the Buddha, after he got enlightened, he has a backache problem. Right? He don't force himself to sit in the position. If he sit for too long, he has a back pain. He changed position. He starts walking meditation, or sometimes he lie down. Right? So you have to also take care of your body. Right? Any other questions? Saw someone typing on the chat. Okay, no. Okay. So if not, we can end the session. Yeah.